What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a team I've been running the last couple of days in the Ultra League, featuring Trevenant. Trevenant is super strong right now because there's so many teams that are either ABA or completely triple weak to it. And I think it's worth breaking out that dusty old Trevenant to bring him out into the Ultra League. Now we're pairing it with a Shadow Charizard and a Registeel on the safe swap. I kind of safe swap both depending on whichever Pokemon is in the lead, but typically Registeel is the one that comes out first because the point is I would either draw the Swampert and or get shield advantage so that Charizard can sweep in the back, but Trevenant just puts in so much work. So let's take a look at these battles and jump right into it. First battle we're going to have up here, we're going to have that Trevenant versus a Virizion. I'm telling y'all. Now, I mean, they swap into an Alolan Mux, so they're not completely core broken. They seem to have an answer to it. So I'm going to come in with my Registeel here, and Registeel is going to dominate this matchup for the most part. Now, the thing with some of the Dark Poisons, and my Registeel is certainly not that XL. It's more of a Regi Light, Diet Regi, if you will. I call him Reginald. That's his actual nickname in the game. It's little Mint Reginald. So, you do win this matchup, but if my opponent decides to start double shielding, they could potentially take this matchup from me. So I just have to be cautious of that and hope that they don't decide to take advantage of that fact. But they decide not to, thankfully, and the opponent comes in with their Virizion to try and get a nice farm down with their Virizion. And I'm going to go, and I'm actually going to swap out here instead of going for the Focus Blast. I'm going to bank the energy, go into my Trevenant. Because I have a Shadow Charizard in the back, it means that I have two really strong answers to Virizion. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have not seen a single Virizion running Stone Edge all week, so I'm not really worried about it anymore. Now, of course, I say that, and every Virizion's probably going to run Stone Edge, but at the moment, everyone's running Leaf Blade, Sacred Sword to try to core break the Sand Slash Water teams, so for right now, I think that it's pretty safe to assume that. So, Aurorus is going to come in. Very interesting pick for my opponent. They are going to put down a shield and take me out here, but I have, like I said, I've banked this move, and that is why. I was able to bank the move because having Registeel with a bank move is always really strong. Opponent doesn't shield it, and then they see the Charizard come in, and they're like, oh no, and they're just scared. But that Virizion does have a lot of energy. It got a lot of a farm off of my Registeel, so I have to be careful. Now, I just took a complete gamble, like I said. They either have Stone Edge or they don't. This person clearly doesn't have it, and they had 3 Sacred Swords. I'm going to shield this last one here just in case. I don't think I need to, but just in case I, need to. But I'm going to go up to 2 Dragon Claws and throw with good timing. I figured at that point they had emptied their entire energy gauge, and if they hadn't, that would have been very sad for me. But going to go up to 2 Dragon Claws here, win CMP against the Virizion, take out the Virizion, and that is going to be a good game, well played to my opponent. Going into this next battle here, we're going to have Trevenant against Tapu Fini. Another lead won by Trevenant. And you're going to see a lot of those because I did win a lot of leads. Now, I didn't win all my games, for sure. There was definitely some games where, I just got completely obliterated and hard countered and chose not to show them, only because I want to show you guys battles where there was actual play involved instead of just complete and utter RPS. Now, my opponent has Tapu Fini on the lead, and they stayed in, which meant they were, again, core broken by Trevenant. And I swap out my Trevenant to preserve it, and I'm going to throw my Registeel into the fray to try and draw out, maybe they have a Swampert in the back or something. I want to draw that out, get that out of the way for Charizard. Instead, my opponent has a Registeel in the back, and that is, I'm fine with this, honestly. I can abuse their Registeel for energy with my Trevenant. And the only problem here that I'm going to have is that they got the Zap Cannon debuff off on me before I can land a charge move. So that is what it is. But, honestly, this team did really well for me. I did gain quite a few of my elo back. I have been struggling, to be honest with you guys. I feel like I've waited too long in the season. I just, unfortunately, didn't really have much of a choice. I've been very, very busy with work and the move and everything. So I'm going to max out just about on energy on my Trevenant, and I'm going to undercharge this to try and get a couple extra Shadow Claws in, just in case they have something in the back that I want that energy for. And it's always good energy, and they actually have a Giratina. So I'm going to launch the Shadow Ball at the Giratina, hopefully getting that last shield, but they decide not to shield. So I'm immediately going to come in with my Charizard, lure out their Tapu Fini, which is low, get up to about 2 Dragon Claws, and I believe that was a CMP tie. If not, it was close to one. But I want to force this person to throw their energy, because what's going to happen to them now is I'm going to have energy loaded on my Charizard. It's not good for them either way, so I'm going to let the serve through. I'm going to farm down the Tapu Fini, have my shield saved, and I'm going to take out the Giratina with that Shadow Ball. But my opponent knew it was going to happen, and they decided to concede. So well played to my opponent. Getting a bit of an awkward lead here on this Tentacruel. Tentacruel is not comfortable, but it's really what's in back that we have to be careful of, right? So typically, you know, just a typical thing that happens in Go Battle League is, you know, players like to team up their poison types with dark types. They're a very common core all the way back in the day since we were running Nidoqueen Double Dark, you know, Golbat Double Dark, things like that. So it's a Scrafty save swap. And at this point, I have to answer with my Charizard because I don't really have an answer to Scrafty. Scrafty does core break my team, which is, you know, I don't see a ton of Scrafties, so when I do see them, they are kind of scary. And I have definitely, I played these games today, not maybe 2 hours ago, and there was definitely some Scrafties that I lost to. But we're going to kaboom and salute that Scrafty on out of here. Getting the Blast Burn to the face, and I do have some HP left. I'm going to be able to get to a Blast Burn against this Tentacruel. And normally I would say the ideal alignment for me would be my Registeel, but it's going to take so long for it to get to a move. At this point, I don't really know that I want to come in with it. So because my Trevenant was so close to a move, I'm going to be able to come in and go for the Seed Bomb right off the bat here and hopefully get this final shield. My opponent comes in with an Obstagoon, and I'm starting to stammer. Just making fun of myself now. The Obstagoon has Obstruct. Now, here's the thing that I do know from playing Obstagoon myself many times is in this matchup, you need 2 Obstructs to comfortably live that Focus Blast. But you can see now it's just a farm down range. You need 2 Obstructs in order to comfortably live that. And unfortunately, the Obstagoon didn't have any shields, so they're just going to get taken out. And I'm going to just about have a move ready to go. And I have a shield still, so I decide I'm going to let this go. And I'm going to save the shield for Trevenant just to get to a move, because my opponent, while they may have been able to get to, you know, if they have 2 Scalds, I outpace them to their next move, because Scald is usually 8 poison jabs. So I'll be able to shield up the Scald, get to the Seed Bomb, and even if they had been able to somehow double up, which I don't even think you can. I think it's like 55 energy. I don't know how much it is, but anyway, good game to my opponent. I did run into that team later on, and they completely destroyed me because they were able to catch the Shadow Ball from my Trevenant on their Obstagoon, and everything just went completely awry from there. So, yeah. If you're not in the video, good game to you as well. I did lose a fair amount of games. It wasn't like, I mean, I still gained some points, but the team definitely obviously has core breakers, as every team does now in Ultra League, and I'm finding, honestly, it's very unfortunate. I love Ultra League in conception, right? In its concept, in what it is, but I have been having a very bad time overall in this Ultra League because it's just so much variance now. There's just so much here. Now, that being said, you bet yourself that I'm going to be playing Greninja teams this weekend and afterwards, because Greninja is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I am going to do everything I can in my power to get shinies for each league. And if I don't, I will probably end my YouTube career, because that is just unfortunate. So I'm going to do what I can to get some good PvP IV shinies, maybe a hundo, maybe a 98%. We'll see what happens. And I'm sure you'll see it on this channel at some point, because I'm a Greninja lover, you know, like it or not, live or die by the frog. So XehrFelrose, trying to farm down, can't do it, has to throw a move here, and it's fine with me. I'm going to go ahead and come back in with my Trevenant here, and I'm hoping that I can get a nice farm down. I have 2 shields. I'm fearing the Brutal Swing here, so I have to shield this. Opponent throws a Thunder Punch, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe they don't have it. And then they swap in their Giratina, and I, like a fool, don't react. I let it go, but I feel like I probably should have thrown the energy. I was also fearing an Ancient Power because they had just been throwing Dragon Claws this whole time. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe they have that. But they have so much energy. My opponent made a very smart decision to over-farm their pants off before swapping out in the early game. And that honestly was what just did me in here. So, yes, I'm going to be able to take out the Giratina with my Dragon Claw from my Charizard. But it's what comes after that is that I need to be able to take out... Never mind. Okay, I'm thinking of a different game. I had a game, and maybe I'm mixing it up because it was a very similar team. Oh, no, there it is. No, there's the Tapu Fini. Never mind. I'm thinking that's probably it then. Yep, I think that was it. Trevenant's not going to be able to take out this Tapu Fini. Unfortunately, if I had been able to land that Blast Burn, then the Seed Bomb would have absolutely been enough, and we would have been fine. But unfortunately, not the case. Opponent's going to get to the serve, take out my Trevenant. It's going to be a good game. Well played with them. Definitely not core broken by Trevenant in this game. So we've got another one here. Well, I guess they were kind of, I mean, XehrFelrose is awkward because it's not bad. But here we've got a Galvantula in the lead. We're resisting the electric damage thanks to the grass typing. So what I like to do here is I like to overfarm and let them hit me with a lunge. And after this, I'll start trying to throw in the middle of their fast moves. I'll throw the Seed Bomb first because they're very likely to shield. It's Galvantula, squishy, and they're thinking, well, why would I want to go for the Shadow Ball? Or why wouldn't I go for a Shadow Ball here? Because Seed Bomb's resisted. So this lets me get that one extra Shadow Claw that's going to allow me to get to a Shadow Ball pretty quickly here. And instead, my opponent decides to swap into a Registeel, and I bank up as much energy as I can. We have even shields, but that much energy on a Trevenant. If my opponent is willing to swap in a Registeel into my Trevenant, I'm thinking that they may be core broken by my by my Trevenant. So we're going to throw these Focus Blasts here. I'm just looking to do as much damage as I can. Trevenant's got maxed out energy. I just didn't want to stay in and throw Shadow Balls with 2 debuffs on it. It just felt bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with the Trevenant. I'm going to throw a Shadow Ball, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to undercharge this one and then try and farm down, just like I did a couple games prior. So I max out to 100 energy, throw a Shadow Ball, just charge it up to nice, and then let it rip. And we do get a couple extra. Well, we would have gotten a couple extra. So I throw with some not so great timing there. I'm still not that great with switch times, like when it comes to timing in the middle of the switch. But like, I can't even swap out here, man. This is awkward. All right, this is not comfy for me. So Seed Bomb's going to come through, and the only way that I'm taking out this Jellicent is with a Blast Burn, dude. So my opponent was definitely core broken once again by the Trevenant. But this Charizard is going to have to deal with the Jellicent. Now, I do know how much damage a Surf does. It does not completely KO me here. But it does put me in an awkward range where I need to make sure that I have as much energy as possible to try and take out that Galvantula, because I also need to keep enough HP to live the Volt Switches that'll come. So I know I can live 1 Volt Switch, so I'm looking to try and just make sure I throw in the middle of the move. My opponent does the hide and seek, the swap and switch and swap. I don't know what the hell it's called. Pardon my curse. But my opponent gets hit with the Blast Burn because, I mean, it's Galvantula, dude. It's really easy to play around that timing. So another good lead here was Sunfisk. The opponent is also staying in, means that they are also core broken by Trevenant. Now, this happened more often than not, believe it or not. And most of the games I lost were just because my opponent played better than me. And I'm trying to climb. I'm like, I've gotten down. I'm down bad, y'all. I went from 29. I think it was like 2930 something 2 days ago, and I dropped all the way down to the low 2800s, and I was starting to climb back up with this team here. So I want to make a video on it. But opponent is staying in here, and what I like to do here is I like to match shields or shield once, and then I will try to CMP that G-Fisk. What the CMP is doing is it's making them feel forced to shield if they want to get the damage off. So they have to make that decision, right? One of the things that I like to preach when I'm teaching my students, coaching and doing things like that, is I like to try and tell my students, put your opponent in the position to make these decisions. And once again, core broken, and also core broken by Registeel in the back completely. So that just feels bad. But you know, Zap Cannon is going to hurt, but what the thing that I like to preach is just make your opponent be the ones to make the decisions, right? Go for the nuke. Make them make the decision to shield or not. It's when you start getting to the point where you feel like you have to make the decisions, and then you make the wrong ones, and you get mad at yourself for it. You all know what I'm talking about. You're like, oh, I'm going to bait here, and then your opponent decides to call that bait, and you're like, I'm an idiot. I should have just gone for the nuke. Now, I'm not saying never bait. What I am saying is try to put your opponent in the position that they need to be the ones making the bad decisions. So I'm trying to do as much damage to this thing as I can. And I've never actually straight up eaten a liquidation on my Charizard. So I'm going to find out how much damage it does right now. I don't know if it one-shots. And thankfully it doesn't, but man, that's close. But I just needed the damage from the wing attack to go off, and thankfully I'm able to take that one just barely. That was a close one. So next game we got a Gyarados on the lead. Bit of an interesting lead. Like, they have all neutral damage, they have crunch, so because I know it takes 15 to get to the crunch, I'm gonna bait. I'm gonna make a bad choice here, and I'm gonna bait. And my opponent doesn't shield it, knowing that they can. So I'm gonna swap immediately because I know that they are basically at the crunch, and they throw it, which is fine. I'm glad that I caught the energy on the Registeel. and my opponent's staying in after getting the debuff. And they're going to go for an Aqua Tail, but what I needed to remember here, which I failed to do later in the match, and you'll see why, is they overfarmed a little bit. And so I'm waiting for them to swap because I kind of expected them to try and, you know, make a catch here. But for some reason, they swap in Jellicent, which is interesting. So once again, I'm like, oh, well, I guess my Registeel probably breaks what they have in the back. So I go for a Focus Blast here, thinking that what I would do is I would leave some farm, but my opponent actually shields instead. I wanted them to take me out, and I wanted to leave farm for my Trevenant. That's what I was hoping for. So instead, I'm going to eat a Shadow Ball. Fine. And then Trevenant's going to come in, and I do have to shield back one time in order to not get blasted in the face by a Shadow Ball. So gonna shield that, maybe able to farm down here because I'm keeping track of their energy. And, you know, even though the Gyarados can deal crunch damage, it also can't really eat another Seed Bomb. So my opponent is going to be forced to show me their third, and it's a Skuntank. And I'm like, oh, geez, they had that hiding in the back. So my opponent stays in to throw the crunch. They are not at the they're not enough energy to throw the Aqua Tail, but I just realized when I did this this Dragon Claw here that they stopped attacking, which meant it was a CMP. And I'm like, oh no, they overfarmed. I was trying to go for 4 Dragon Claw, 4 wing attacks to get there, but they had got there before me. So because they threw that energy, though, now I'm able to farm down. And I'm like, you know what? Even though it's resisted damage, Shadow Ball still does damage. So let's see how much damage this does. 2 of them will knock out, and I outpace the opponent to the next move. They're going to concede, and that's a good game. Man, I started out really good with the transitions. Now I'm not paying attention. Get another awkward lead here. We've got an Aurorus on the lead, and this is not something that I'm very well to do. So I'm going to come in with my Charizard right away, and I'm going to go for this Blast Burn. Now, I know that they did not go all the way up to a Meteor Beam, so I'm going to let this go. I can eat 1 Weather Ball. I just wanted them to swap out so I could get the alignment for it eventually on my Registeel, hopefully, or get a really nice farm down on my Trevenant. My opponent shields the Blast Burn, and I'm like, oh my goodness, are they weak in the back to Charizard too? Which makes sense. Aurorus is typically a Charizard response, so I'm just going straight for the Blast Burns here, getting those shields down. And after I've got both shields at this point, I know there's no way that I'm going to outpace to another Blast Burn. So I'm just going to let my opponent have this. I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw, but they actually farm me down now instead. And I feel it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, I made them to make the decision to shield, but I feel like a fool then for not paying. My opponent comes in with Golisopod, and it's at this point in battle that I'm like, I've got this. They swapped in Golisopod into a Registeel, and they have that. So I throw the Zap Cannon here. This is going to do a ton of damage. It's going to bring this Golisopod down to a range where I can probably farm it down with something. I can. So I'm going to farm down with my Registeel, and let's see what my opponent wants to do here after they let their Golisopod go down. I am like, they're going to come back in with that stinking Aurorus because they've got a ton of energy on it. And I have defense debuff, so I could even go down to a Weather Ball. My opponent comes in with a Virizion, and I'm clicking too fast. I should have absolutely not done that. What I should have done was I should have saved that Focus Blast so that I could take out this stupid Aurorus. Now, I don't think I win this game regardless, because the Virizion is just, it's in the back and it destroys my Registeel. So my opponent, having the Virizion in the back, unfortunately really sealed my fate here. So they played this really well, though. But, you know, as you saw, they had Golisopod and they had Virizion in the back, and they were completely weak to Charizard, which is why they didn't swap out. So next game, we've got a really nice lead. You couldn't ask for a better lead into a Swampert here. And they go into a Giratina Origin. Now, I was expecting it to be Giratina Altered, but I also remember, as someone who has played Giratina Origin in the game, in Ultra League before, typically they don't run Ominous Wind. So they're not going to be able to bait me here. I'm going to come in with my Charizard, and I'm going to soak. I'm going to, I'm not going to soak. I'm going to match shields is what I meant to say. I'm going to match the shield because they're probably going to throw the Shadow Ball. And right before they get to the next one, I want to throw this Dragon Claw to force possibly another shield or make them take the damage. I don't know how much damage it does, but it takes them out. I'm fine with that. And I've got a lot of HP. I've got some extra energy. I try to CMP on the Hydro Cannon and just throw a Blast Burn. Figure if I'm only going to get one move off, the Blast Burn does do more damage than a Dragon Claw would. But they decided not to, so now we CMP. My opponent must have lost track of energy. Charizard counts are also confusing. I get them wrong all the time, and I hate it. But they let it go. Unfortunately, they live with just enough HP to get that Hydro Cannon off. But they are at 2 Hydro Cannons right now. So if I come up with my Trevenant, we're going to see what's in the back. They have a Walrein, and this is a really good matchup for Registeel. So I'm pretty good here as long as I don't... I mean, even if I give the Swampert some farm here, there's really no way that they can take out my Trevenant because it's got so much HP that it would live even an Earthquake at this point. So just going to play out this kind of slow matchup. You know, my opponent's Walrein goes for Earthquakes. I go for Zap Cannon, Focus Blast, what have you. Now I'm going to go for Focus Blast just because it's lower energy. But my opponent gets to another Earthquake, and I did not realize they were going to be at that energy so quickly. So I would have thrown the Focus Blast just a turn earlier if I had known that they were going to be there. I was off by like 1, I believe. So I'm trying to swap out now to start getting energy, and I realize my opponent's got a lot of energy, but I don't think they're going to be able to get to 2 Ice School Spears here before I'm able to farm down. And now all I have to do is get to a Seed Bomb and or take out the Swampert. My opponent must not have been at the move where they didn't want to throw the Hydro Cannon because they knew it wasn't enough. So we've got another great lead here with Virizion. I love seeing Virizions with this team because it gives me so much more flexibility of what I'm doing with this team because I know that I can answer it with Charizard and Trevenant. I just need to play keep away with my tin can of minty greenness here to make sure that it doesn't get locked in against the Virizion and really not get much use out of it. So I'm going to swap it in here. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to go and take out this XehrFelrose. I'm going to overfarm just a little bit. My opponent did swap out immediately. And I'm expecting them to come back in with the Virizion, honestly, after. And I didn't think they were going to shield either. Now, they do come in with Virizion. They're going to need 2 charge moves to take me out, or a 1 charge move and a ton of farm. So, they throw the Sacred Sword. I haven't seen Leaf Blade yet, and I'm not going to, because there's nothing here except for, I mean, I guess Trevenant, if you're going to throw Leaf Blade at anything. But, so I need to be careful with my Charizard. They are going to eat that Focus Blast. Why wouldn't they? It doesn't do that much damage to them. And I'm not able to get to the Focus Blast, unfortunately, just in the nick of time there. But they come in with a Regirock instead. And at this point, my Charizard's in the back sweating. Is sweating hard, all right? This, my poor Charizard's like, I ain't coming in here. And this is a 2-shield matchup. And because of the energy increase to Seed Bomb, the Regirock outpaces my Trevenant every time to the move. It's 11 lock-ons to the Stone Edge, and it's 12 turns to each Seed Bomb, I believe. I don't know if there's a 5 cycle in there somewhere, but I have to figure this out, right? Because it's Virizion, but the Virizion's got a lot of energy, and I'm going to let this go. I'm just going to let the Regirock go. I'm going to shield once and farm all the way down with my Charizard. But my opponent's not able to get to their Stone Edge, maybe getting there just as I took them out. And now they just quit. So, well played to my opponents. Great games. Here it's just Trevenant, dude. Trevenant is just core breaking so many teams. I think I saw a team yesterday of, it was, Virizion, Tapu Fini, and oh goodness, I can't remember. Was it G-Fisk or something? It was something ridiculously weak to Trevenant, and I'm just like, okay, like I'm playing Trevenant for right now. So thanks everyone for watching the video. We'll catch you in the next one. I'm not going to show myself today. Just have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.